There's no doubt that one of the most unique features of the iPhone is its unique App Store, one of the first handheld devices to have a comprehensive place for developers to publish and for users to purchase applications. Apple's really done something to standardize the idea across the industry. But that doesn't mean it's without controversy. Many times Apple, who is the sole provider of applications on the iPhone legally, will reject applications for a variety of reasons, including when it hurts its partners' interests, such as AT&T rejecting Sling Player, and other more sketchy things, like Apple actually rejecting Google Voice, saying it duplicates core functionality of the phone. There's lots of drama here, and Nilay Patel has been checking out this drama as a writer over at Engadget. Nilay, thanks for joining us on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So you recently wrote an editorial specifically talking about this App Store situation, and even before this, let's set up the context. Apple, the FCC basically came down and said, Apple, you need to explain yourself to us. Like, why are you rejecting an application from a competitor? Why, there's lots of weird competitive landscapes going on. Can you kind of break down sort of the context that made you write this editorial?
Well, as everybody knows, the FCC regulates the airwaves in this country. Spectrum, radio spectrum is a finite resource. So the FCC, whenever there's a device that interacts with the radio spectrum, the FCC has some amount of authority and jurisdiction over it. And so the iPhone is obviously a revolutionary device. The App Store is obviously a new market that has really exploded beyond most people's expectations or imaginations. So what happened was, Google had submitted the Google Voice application. There had already been some other apps that interacted with Google Voice in the App Store. And Apple rejected or didn't approve Google Voice, depending on your point of view or how you're reading it. And it was unclear as to why. And that sort of raised sort of the interest of the FCC, which has long been interested in things like voice over IP, has long been interested in the transition of consumers from sort of analog things like landlines to digital mediums like cell phones and VoIP. Yeah. And so they just, it's not a formal investigation. It's just a letter.
Yeah.
That's really happened here. The FCC asked these three companies to explain what had happened because they're interested in this market and how it's developing because it's obviously a huge market.
And this isn't the first time Apple's rejected an application. To be clear, there's lots of developers who have lots of problems with Apple, and that's a big point of contention. So you wrote this editorial.
Well, actually, we had this running joke in Engadget that if we covered every app rejection story that we get, we should just change our name to Engadget because there are so many. Yeah. And we try to cover the big ones that seem notable to us.
Yeah, so this is an ongoing point of controversy. And in your editorial, you had mentioned that there's a simple way for Apple to fix this problem. And you mentioned this side-loading idea.
Right.
Why should they move to an approach where they're not the only company running the iPhone?
Well, so everybody's familiar with the iPhone. Everybody knows that the only way you get apps is through the App Store, right? And that means Apple is in charge. They're in control. And I don't think that when you're in control and you have a review process, I used to be a lawyer, and that just reminds me of courts. And if you look at the history of any sort of controversial thing in our court system, like the First Amendment, which isn't controversial, but you can push the lines of the First Amendment, or search and seizure or something like that, right? It takes a lot of time to develop a sort of consistent, rational approach to how to, use these laws and live by these laws. Now, Apple's essentially doing the same thing, right?
Yeah,
they
have a legal system for their applications.
For the apps,
they figure out what's approved, what's not approved, et cetera.
Yeah, they've got the same problem. And developers, when I hear developers say what they want from the App Store, it's the same things that people, like regular citizens, want from their courts, right? Yeah. They want consistency, they want fairness. They want to say, well, you let this app through, why won't you let my app through, right? And that's a court system. If this keeps going, I don't see why an enterprising young attorney wouldn't start a law firm devoted solely to getting apps to the App Store. Okay, that's awesome. Ridiculous, right? That is a ridiculous outcome.
Yeah.
And the easy way around it is for Apple to say, all right, well, we're going to have the App Store that 99% of people are going to use, right? Because that's what's going to happen. It's going to be an icon on the home screen of the phone. 99% of people are going to get their apps to there.
Yeah.
But if you're going to push the boundaries, and we're not going to let you in the App Store, go be free. and will be a lot more like, say, Android, where you can get any, users can get any app they want, and they're on their own, and they have to be responsible for it. And if you just draw this distinction, then Apple's tight control over the iPhone and the platform and the ecosystem doesn't start to look as evil, right? Because that's the problem we have now, and it's kind of a huge distraction. And that's what my editorial was really about, is that I don't see why consumers or technology enthusiasts should be talking about things that remind me of a court system. I mean, that's not what people want to do. They don't want to talk about procedure, right? People don't want to talk about First Amendment law. They just want to have free speech, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's really the crux of this issue, is that Apple's managed to lose the plot of the App Store. They've sort of gotten mired down in a lot of talk about how many reviewers there are, or
or how many downloads or whatever. I mean, it's a lot less about the actual applications themselves and more about these like surrounding concepts. So you're basically saying, allow people to sideload if they want to. It'll be kind of like, circa 2004, 2005 BlackBerry. I mean, if you wanted to download something and install it on your BlackBerry, you could do it. It's just pretty hard, and most people didn't. Is that really what the solution is here for you?
I mean, I really think so. I mean, allowing the only people who are going to do all this sideloading are the most kind of like geeky, impassioned customers, right? Yeah. Who are, I mean, that's the future of your...
The Engadget readers, the TechView watchers, and everyone who sort of wants that early adopter stuff.
Exactly. And those people are the ones who are going to push your platform, and those people are the ones who are going to sort of investigate things that maybe aren't ready for the mainstream and develop them further for you, so that when Apple does want to tweak the rules or extend the platform or do what they used to do and like pick up cool shareware ideas for their, they still do this, but they used to actually buy cool shareware and integrate it in the system. Well, they'll have it. It'll be sitting there. It'll be waiting there for them, and that will really develop the platform. And what's interesting is that all of Apple's competitors are doing this, right? So Windows Mobile, when Windows Mobile 6.5 launches, it will have the way you can get applications as always, which is sideloading, and they're going to have the Windows Phone Store, the Windows Mobile, the marketplace for Windows Mobile. Windows Marketplace for mobile,
whatever it's called. Yeah.
You pick like 6 words to rearrange and get the name.
Exactly.
BlackBerry has the App World, right, which is successful in its own right now. I think people are turning to it.
Yeah.
The pre, it's not easy to sideload applications, but you can certainly do it. We've seen a lot of homebrew, a lot of hacks for the pre that, it's very easy to do. Android, obviously. So all of Apple's competitors are going down this road where you have a centralized store for sort of the mass consumer, where things that are vetted and approved kind of get through. And then you've got sort of the rest of the market.
Yeah, and we'll have to see really where it goes, because, I mean, this is something that if they want to stay ahead of iPhone innovation, eventually developers are just going to get frustrated. And we've seen people who are, quote, blowhards, or whatever you want to call them, like Michael Arrington, for example, who has said, I'm done with the App Store because of this. And regular users, meanwhile, just say, like, I want cool applications, whatever.
Nobody else knows this is going on,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And I think that's actually the danger for Apple right now. That's how Apple becomes arrogant, right?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
99% of people are walking through the door of the Apple Store. We read some crazy stat yesterday about the Fifth Avenue store that does like $32,000 worth of business per square foot of that store every day or something. Yeah. That's ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
So, those people don't care, but there's a real danger that they will start to care.
Exactly.
And once that happens, I think Apple's really in a bad place.
Well, they lose their cool and all that stuff, and it just becomes a nightmare for them. Nilay, we're running out of time, so we got to leave it there. Nilay's full article, it's up over on Engadget, engadget.com. You can check that out. We'll have a link on our site, of course. If you're watching us on YouTube or iTunes, you can head to techview.com. We'll get you right over to Engadget's editorial. Of course, it's on their front page, too, so just head to engadget.com. You can see it there. Nilay, thanks for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'm Randall Bennett, and we'll see you next time on the show. Don't forget, subscribe to us on iTunes. We're on YouTube, and see where else you can get us, and let us know. See you later.